Nelson,
I presume that's going to be turned on.
Oh yeah, might as well turn it on. Tony?
Yeah, just hit the red button.
Which one? Oh, that one.
Kia ora tātou, g'day everyone. Thanks very much for joining us today. The information that we're getting is pretty fast paced, so please excuse me, but I'm going to refer to notes throughout. But we've spent most of the morning and this afternoon going around to assess damage here in Nelson, and it is quite extensive in parts. It's very difficult to navigate around Nelson at the moment, and that's because of surface flooding and landslides as well. And I just want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the amount of effort that's being put in by the community here, particularly by volunteers, by contractors, and also emergency services as well. As we were travelling around Nelson, the number of people that were there looking out for the safety of others was quite extraordinary, really. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And also acknowledge the people that have had to evacuate or self-evacuate as well. I was talking to the police earlier today, and they said that they have had no resistance at all. The people here in Nelson recognise that this is a serious event, and they have complied with instructions and suggestions throughout, and I think that needs to be acknowledged. Before we touch on some of the information about Nelson-Tasman area, I note that there will be interest about other areas as well, so I'll just touch on that briefly. Most of the rivers in the west coast are starting to drop, so that is good news. There's some surface flooding there, but we've been in touch. NEMA have sent down some additional personnel to the local crews down there, and they're quite comfortable how things are at the moment. I've spoken to the Mayor of Northland, and he's comfortable where they're at the moment, and also for Marlborough as well. After the significant area surface flooding that was happening yesterday, it's really pleasing to see that those rivers seem to be stabilising and are currently looking at a 30-year event level. There was one concern around a particular rural community that might get isolated in Marlborough, but provisions have been put in place, including an ambulance crew member in that community, so that if they do get isolated, they have the provisions that they need. Initially, the concern was around Golden Bay, that the weather might be heading there, but obviously that changed very quickly and then hit Nelson-Tasman. So really pleased to see that whilst there are obviously some isolated areas in Golden Bay, obviously that is now focused, the weather has focused predominantly on Nelson-Tasman area. MPI have reported that they are in touch with the rural communities around these areas, both from a welfare point of view from the residents, but also an animal welfare point of view. They're not reporting anything at this stage, but will continue to monitor that situation. So here in Nelson, what we've seen is 308 houses have had to be evacuated. That includes 10 due to a landslide, the rest due to flooding. And as it stands, 104 of those have been assessed today. We've met with the crews when they were out there. They're all working incredibly hard in difficult conditions. And I think it's credit to them that they've got through so many houses so quickly. But roughly 20% of those have been yellow stickered or red stickered. So it's clear that there's going to be a long-term impact to the residents of this city and this area here. So we have met with the Mayor, Rachel Reese, and Tim King as well, Tasman. We've got Damien O'Connor here as the locally based Minister and Rachel Boyack as the locally based MP. We've been in consultation with the local council and with NEMA, and as a result of that, I can announce that there will be a $200,000 contribution to the Mayoral Relief Fund across both the Nelson and Tasman areas. The point of this fund is to provide welfare assistance straight away. We don't want to wait for a full damage assessment in the area, because obviously there is a need now. There are people that are displaced in their homes, there is damage to property, there is damage to many areas of the city that this relief fund can assist with. So for example, if there is a sewerage system that is overblown, this fund can assist with that. If there are areas that need water tanks refilled, because there is a boil water notice in place here at the moment, this fund can assist with that, as well as general welfare needs. So perhaps I might give Her Worship the Mayor an opportunity to comment in that respect.
Look, thank you, Minister. And look, I'm going to speak reasonably briefly because I'd like to give Mr. Alec Levertis, the Group Controller, an opportunity to speak with you about the detail of the event. There are two parallel issues that we are dealing with right now, and that is the ongoing rain. It is still solid rain out there. We've also got evacuations and housing issues to address, and just acknowledge, as the Minister said, the absolute challenge and the anxiety for people who have evacuated their homes over the last 24 hours. I want to say thank you to those people. Their cooperation was outstanding. To all of the Nelsonians who have taken whānau friends in, opened their doors, fed them, found a bed for them, I want to thank you as well. And again, just to reiterate the Minister's comments, we need the roads to be quiet. It is very difficult to get around the city at the moment. People have stayed home, schools have been closed, and I really want to thank you for that. To our emergency management team, this is a significant event for the region, and the preparation for this event was sound. It was good. I want to acknowledge NEMA for the support they've given us, and for other members of the emergency management whānau who have come from throughout New Zealand to support our team here. It's going to be a long haul, and I think we need to prepare ourselves for that now. The emergency response will be an extended one. We have got damage throughout the city, and as we've said, we've got damage to people's homes, and homes that are likely to be uninhabitable, and that is going to be a challenging scenario for many families. We have got support, and Mr. Levertis will give you more detail on that about what's going to be happening tomorrow. We want to make sure that if people are concerned, they make contact with us. We have the support there, and we will give you that wraparound. But for Nelson, look, I went out with the Minister. We've been out to Atawhai. We've been having a look around the Maitai River this afternoon, and look, the degree of instability that I'm seeing in some of the hillsides concerns me. There's potential for more slips, there's potential for more flooding, and that means there's potential for more evacuations. We will keep our information up to date. We'll be making contact with people if we've got concerns about potential slips. But Nelsonians, thank you. You've been an amazing community as always. Your resilience is fantastic, but we're going to have to work together over the long haul to put the city right. Mr. Levertis, I'll hand over to you and just thank you, and I'll do that now. Thank Mr. Levertis and the team on behalf of the Nelson-Tasman region. This is hard work, and it's hard work over a sustained period of time. They are a top-class team, and we would not be in the shape that we are today without their efforts. So, thank you, Alec.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry.
Thank you, Minister. Look, I won't talk for very long. I think in terms of what the Minister and Her Worship the Mayor has said, this has been an absolute astounding event that has hit Nelson. We're still keeping an eye on our neighbours in Tasman, but certainly we understand that the stress of those that have been evacuated are under, and we're doing our utmost to make sure that we do those rapid responses as urgently as possible. We are receiving excellent support from the police and FENS from the rapid response units, and we are still getting another unit from Tasman, which will put 4 USARs within our area, and the point of that is to try and get those rapid assessments undertaken as rapidly as possible. I can only iterate in terms of what I've seen and in terms of our drive around that Nelson is in for a long haul. There is extensive damage, and once things have subsided, we'll be able to assess that damage and then plan for the future. But I can also only reiterate the support that we've received from central government. NEMA has been absolutely fantastic, and as always, the people that service the EOC have been brilliant, as has the residents of Nelson and Tasman. So I think I'll leave it at that. Other to say, then we understand the urgency, but we need to do this systematically and work through it in a safe manner. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Happy to take questions by any of us, really. If anything technical, we might hand over to Alec here, but we'll do our best to answer whatever questions you've got.
I guess for both you and you, Rachel, what was it like seeing the destruction and devastation today?
There were two images that stuck in my mind as we were travelling around. One was that we were literally watching a hill just flow on down. It was like you were pouring out yogurt out of a container, just this thick sludge just carrying on down, steady as, and that struck me. And also a relatively new development where the middle of the road had just been washed out, a crater that was deeper than I am tall. And we were talking to some of the residents there, and they just said they couldn't believe their eyes as they watched it come out. So it's pretty clear for me. I've only been here a few hours, but I've seen enough to see that there's some extensive damage around the city.
Yes, I think it's the intensity of the rainfall that was evident, as the Minister said. You could see how, full roads had been scoured out. You could see the damage from the intensity of rain. And I just want to comment on that briefly. Look, I have to say, yesterday we were, we're checking in, every few hours with the Emergency Operations Centre. We're monitoring. We've got good monitoring going on in terms of our hydrology. But the degree of increase in the flow in the Maitai River was something I have never seen before, and it really did build very, very quickly. When you go out and look around the city at the moment, you can actually see the evidence of that. The velocity of water that has moved through some of these spaces is just incredible, and that is one of the things that's caused the damage.
This must be pretty devastating for you and your community.
Look, it is devastating. It's really devastating for the community. This isn't my first emergency declaration. In fact, over the years in my term as Mayor, I've done many. They're always tough. They're particularly tough. I guess one of the things that's going through my mind is that I had decided not to stand. I've thoroughly enjoyed being the Mayor of Nelson for 9 years, but I have to say I'm thinking about the next couple of months and what I can do to help prepare the next Mayor to get ready for the recovery that's going to be needed. It's going to be a recovery, in my view, looking at the damage today, that it's not going to be over a matter of months, it's going to be over years.
This might be a question for Alec. For a lot of the residents that have been evacuated, what's the timeline looking like for when they can go back to their homes?
So I was hoping by the end of today that we would have completed those rapid assessments. We've got through about half of those. We will be securing additional resources. I think it'll take a couple of days. One of the things that it's worthwhile noting that we are going to be having this place, the Trafalgar Centre, as a dropping centre for those people that require a sort of a one-stop shop for any questions that may have, and that's going to be operating from 8:30 tomorrow. I am hopeful that we will have completed all of our assessments by the end of tomorrow, and I'm really praying and hopeful that we'll be able to get most of those people back into their homes.
The rain is still forecast to fall, as I understand it, tomorrow and into Saturday. Are you concerned that this is not the end of it?
I'm always concerned. We have a lot of intel behind us. We have the Met Service, we have excellent hydrologists from the Tasman District Council, and we have modelling. All indications are at the moment that even with high tides and the rain that's coming, and we are expecting more rain, especially today and as well as Friday and Saturday, but all indications are that it's not going to be as drastic as it is. However, I know to expect the unexpected, and we got the unexpected yesterday in terms of Nelson, so we have people watching it on a minute-by-minute basis.
Kieran, sorry, I just wanted to know, you said about the support. Can the area expect more support as because this is going to be a long-term fix, I guess?
It does look like it's going to be a long-term issue for this region and this city. The way the Mineral Relief Fund works is that it's done on a needs assessment, but what we wanted to do today was to make an initial contribution, make sure that it's enough to cover the need right now, and as the damage and the welfare need in the community is clearer, and of course we'd need to wait for the weather event to finish to get to that point, then we will reassess and provide that support. And that was the way we approached Buller, it's the way we approached Ashburton, Tairāwhiti, etc. And so the contribution is actually relatively large here because it covers two regions, and it's also clear that this is going to be going on for a long time. So we had confidence that that was the appropriate amount. We consulted with the Mayor and NEMA, and that was the advice that we got.
Minister, what can you tell us about the Defence Force's involvement?
Yeah, I think that touches on the fact that there are many hands have gone up to respond to this. The Defence Force have come in. Just in the short time that I was at the response centre, we spoke to people from the police, people from iwi, people that have other full-time jobs that drop tools and put their hand up. But the Defence Force has come in to lend some assistance, but so too have NEMA. I've got a little note here that might be of interest from you. We've got 7 groups or councils that have lended personnel down to this area, which I think is just phenomenal. We're talking about multiple government agencies, 27 personnel from every corner of the country have come to help out here. I just think that touches at the strength of our civil defence structure that we have in New Zealand. It has a place in every district in the country, and as a result we can respond very quickly because we're getting the information we need, and also they know how to respond locally as well. I think it's also why the United States were keen to sign the Memorandum of Cooperation with New Zealand just last week, because we do have a world-renowned response, and every time there's a response just like this one, we're learning lessons that we can share.
Just more of a personal note here, I've spoken to a lot of residents who have shown incredible resilience in the face of all of this. What have you noticed from the residents that you've spoken to?
Well, we were walking up a street, which I think you'd be forgiven for thinking that it wouldn't be affected. It was high ground, it was up a hill, it was on a slope. There were plenty of ways in which any deluge of water would have been able to follow the infrastructure that had been designed. It ripped right through the middle of the street. And we were walking up there and we came across 2 residents, a mother and a son, and they just were so thankful that yes, their road was ruined and that they couldn't have vehicle access to it. They were walking down the street with their umbrella and their shopping bag going to get some groceries, and they had a yarn to us, didn't they?
Did.
And they were just so thankful, looking at the bright side of things, that their house wasn't touched, and they made note of those poor people that have been affected and may be affected for some time. So I think that resilience from that one example demonstrates, I think, the attitude of the people here, eh?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Yeah, it's look, this is a community that has had its fair share of emergency events over the last decade, and yeah, the silver lining from that is actually the resilience is high. I talked about yesterday, having 230 houses evacuated in a very brief space of time. We set up a welfare centre at Saxton Stadium, and we did have people come to Saxton Stadium, but a handful. The rest of those people were accommodated, and that's households, by the way, so I should say correctly, that's the number of households. So let's say we double that and more. More than 500, 600 people were accommodated in other households in Nelson, and actually that is what resilient communities are all about, and that's what we're going to need over the next period to keep going. So that's why I just want to focus on. It's going to take some time, and we're working as fast as we can to do those housing assessments. We're getting through them. Tomorrow, the support centre here is going to be important. I do want to just acknowledge also the Mayoral Relief Fund funding that we've received today. It will really make a difference. It is there, it is accessible, and we'll be standing up the process for accessing that fund very, very quickly. Thank you.
So I've just got one more question for Alec, if that's right. You said we're in for the long haul here, but just speaking in terms of today, what's your advice to people in Nelson for getting through the rest of the afternoon? It's just been high tide. What's it looking like out there, and what can we expect for the rest of tonight?
So I think the message that I'd like to give to Nelsonians and in the wider Tasman, that I think you need to stay at home, not be on the roads. I think our call to not have people on the roads has paid off massively. We've only got one route in and out of in Nelson. State Highway 6 Rocks Road will be closed. I cannot tell you how long it will be closed for, but certainly stay off the roads. Do not go out if you don't need to. There's still weather, bad weather coming, and you may not see it here, but it's certainly up in the catchment. So stay off the road, stay at home, work from home if you have to, and don't go rubbernecking. That's the last thing we need.
And you talked about yesterday, maybe it was a 1 in 75-year event. Is that accurate, or what?
At this moment in time, and we need some time to work through the records, but we believe it's anything between a 1 in 80 and a 1 in 100-year event that manifested itself.
Any other stats in terms of the Maitai River from yesterday? Because I think someone mentioned 500 cumecs.
Yeah, so we were very close to 500 cumecs. One of the things that surprised us was how quick it actually how quick the river flowed increased. That happened within about 30 minutes. And in all my time, as not only as an engineer but as a group controller, I have yet to see how quickly that happened, and I think it took us all by surprise. So we're still busy working through it. I think it will be a record, whatever that is. Not that we're going for records, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Alec, just for explaining what those numbers mean, several years ago you described what a cumec is, and I found it one of the most useful things to describe. And actually what it is, because it's a great way to visualise what we're talking about.
I was presenting a report to council, and I described a cumec, and if you're talking about 500 cumecs, a cumec is equivalent to an old VW Beetle coming towards you. So if you can imagine every second. So if you can imagine 500 Beetles coming towards you every second, that's quite extensive. That puts it into perspective, yes.
So one last question for the Minister. Will you be staying here on the ground given that the event is still going?
We're actually going to go and back to the centre now and have a discussion about that, because there are other regions affected as well, and we want to have an update as to how they're going on. Minister O'Connor's going to head down to the West Coast tomorrow. I've been in touch with the Mayor of Bulla, and he's given a positive response, but of course it is ongoing, so we obviously need to be able to assess it. As Alec just said, things can happen quickly, but just on that point, if I may, I just want to give you credit, because that did happen quickly, but the response was put in place in time, and I think that in doing so you have saved a lot of people a lot of hardship, and so credit to you and your team.
I've got three brief quick questions from a colleague. Have you ever bullied Gaurav Sharma?
I've already responded to that, and I've rejected those allegations. So has the Prime Minister, and so has Caucus. And to be honest, I think what's happening in Nelson today is a bit more important. That's certainly my focus at the moment.
Totally, but I've just been asked to ask them, and I just...
Fair enough.
Have you ever bullied any other MPs?
No.
And have you ever yelled at any colleagues?
No. In fact, I've had people come to me and said, I used to work with you such and such a number of years and haven't even heard you raise your voice. Look, the thing is, like I say, I've rejected those allegations, and so too have my colleagues.
Minister, is there anything else you'd like to add about the Nelson situation?
That we will keep assessing it as is needed. I think the structure that we've got with Civil Defence and NEMA is really sound, that we have the regional response, we've got the national response as well. This morning before I left Wellington, I popped down to the response centre underneath the beehive, and it was absolutely buzzing. Everyone at the head office had down tools and gone in there and were doing their job just like they have every other response. So we'll keep assessing it, and for those other regions, we will keep in touch with the mayors. They know that they are welcome to contact me directly if they've got any concerns or they want to share something. And of course, if something does escalate there, then we can do what we've done today, assess the need and consider any financial support that could be available.
I might just get Minister O'Connor quickly, if that's
Yeah,
right.
sure.
Is there anything you'd like to say about the West Coast, Minister?
No, look, I've been keeping in close contact with the controllers both in Hokitika and in Westport. Thankfully, the situation has eased off there. There's still some concerns for Haast, but they'll be in touch with the locals down there. In terms of Westport, the Bulla is dropping. They are aware that there's an event and a weather event predicted for late Friday, Saturday, so they're keeping an eye on it. But they think that the people can shift back into their homes, and so Minister McAnulty has been in close contact with them. I'll be down there tomorrow on the ground, but we're monitoring the situation very closely.
Would you say they dodged a bullet?
Yeah, they've been lucky, but I mean, you know, that people have had to shift out of their homes. They've been cautious. Again, Nima and the team down there have done an outstanding job moving early, at taking heed of the warnings, and that means that while it's inconvenient for many people, they're safe, and that means we're in a better position to help them get back in their homes and recover, and hopefully the community can move on.
Is that us?
Thank you. Thanks.
Sweet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great,
Cheers.
thank you.